So this is Dorianne when she turned 1 year old there.
She passed away Thanksgiving Day of 2019. She just went into the hospital and, well, they found her unresponsive. They gave her 6 naloxone shots and they brought her in and she stayed unresponsive until she passed away. I think 4 days she was unresponsive in a hospital just with the machine. My name is Loretta Billy. I live in Squahawk, is historically known as Kinney Creek Band. I will never leave. I will never leave because my daughter now lays here. So she was my best friend. There was no one in my life today that ever meant as much as she did to me. When she left from here, she left on very harsh conditions, just drinking alcohol. She was raped and she went to court. Like I said, I have 8 boys, right? 7 boys. So there was no, for them, there was a lot of hurt and anger, but she wanted to leave it behind when she walked out of the courtroom and there was nothing they could prove. So she just this wasn't her home anymore. I always called her my one and only. I'll never have another daughter. She went down to Vancouver and did not bad, for going from here to a city. She did not bad. She found odd jobs. She was cleaning a hair salon for a friend, janitor work in a hair salon, and she just find stuff like that kept her a few dollars here and there. And it was because I traveled to Vancouver quite a bit, so a couple times a month I would go down there and always look for her and check up on her and see how she was. And then one day I was leaving Vancouver and I gave her $200, and I was leaving Vancouver and I wasn't even crossing the bridge yet, and I thought, oh my God, that's like $200 to an addict is like, she could be dead by now. And I'm leaving town not even knowing. So from that day forward, I told her, don't ask me for money. If you need anything, I will provide it for you. I think I saw what was coming probably by 2017. But there was she met into a Jamaican guy and they went to, he took her to his family in Montreal, and he ended up getting charged with trafficking heroin, and he was in jail, and she wanted to come home, and like I said, I'm broke. I'm like, how the heck do you get a family member back from Montreal, right? And yeah, it was probably one of the scariest times in my life, was for her to be that far and working on an addiction that was speeding up fast. Or the beginning of 2019, I went and saw her then, and she was orange. She was so jaundiced, and she wouldn't go to the hospital, or she ended up going, but she's like, I didn't even know I was like this. She didn't have a clue. That's her addiction was from the moment she woke up. She said, hustling to find another hit. And she did that. She came home when we picked her up in previous years. She had like 5 suitcases of clothes. When I picked her up in Thanksgiving Day of 2019, we went to her apartment. We barely filled up a bag full of her stuff. She slept on milk cartons, milk crates on a spring in a room no bigger than this. But on the wall, she had a metal dragonfly that said home. And it was pretty sad for a mother to know that this was her home. And I didn't know, because when I'd visit her previously, she would like meet you in the hallway, meet you downstairs. Mom, I'll be right there. You know, it wasn't a very good place, but you could just smell the drugs in that apartment. But she considered it her home, you know. And I'm like, you know, she was here, she was fine. And when they found her, they said they had security cameras in the hall, and they said they saw her on Friday walking around, and they didn't see her on Saturday, and they went to look for her on Sunday, and that's when they found her in her room, unconscious. Before she went unconscious, she wrote me a letter, and she said, I love you, Mom, and if anything happens, I'm sorry. And that's what they found her with. The caretaker of the building pinned it up on a wall, and she told me when I went there to gather her stuff, there's a message for you pinned up on a wall. And while I was packing her few little meager belongings, I just treasured it. I treasured it and held it, and it's like, oh my God, you know, she loves me. And I love her. But there was nothing that could come between her addiction. I knew then, because she's gone. So it didn't matter how much I loved her or how much she loved me. That addiction just pulled her and took her from every one of us here. She was never the same person.
I'm Marilyn Camille. I'm currently the band administrator for Strachan Catlin First Nation. And when Loretta started going through with Dory, I was there beside her all the way. Like, we would go down. If she didn't show up when she said she was going to meet her mom, we'd go downtown and find her at her place, right? So, and so she'd say, you know what, you know, because of shame, I guess, you know, I'll come meet you, right? So we'd have to go back to the hotel, and she would eventually come. So that was one of the things I vowed. If I knew anybody going through that, I'd make sure I supported them, and right through, you know, go look, let them know. You might not agree with what they're doing, but you still love them, and we're waiting for you to come home. Like, you know, support them in that way. And, you know, and when you're going through the process with her like that, and the funny part, you know, she was talking about the money, and that's what I do when we'd see her. I'd say, okay, I'm going to give her, and she goes, don't. And I'm like, what? And she goes, no, you can't do that to her, right? And so then a reality hit me. Yeah, she could go downtown and OD, right? But I just felt bad, right? When you see your family in Vancouver, you usually like to give them money. So that was a reality check for me. So after that was, no, you just buy stuff and give it to her when you'd see her. But that was my part of the journey, was that, no, you always look for them, let them know you care, no matter what. There's home, you know, come home if you know you need to. And that's when she called me and said, you know, she wants to come home. And I said, yeah, we'll go, right? I mean, that's always what you pledge to do for your children. When they call, you'll go no matter when. So that's where I got the strength to do that journey of walking downtown and not being afraid, and recognize them as people. Like, those are somebody's loved ones there. And that's what, you know, was a reality check for me. And I think I really glad Loretta's got the strength, and, you know, and the staff at Three Corners have seen the need to do this, because I think that's That's going to be the healing journey here. Is people have to start sharing their stories and supporting each other and say, oh, I went through that too. It's been a journey for both of us, watching Dory go down the road she went down. And the one picture I can always remember is her as a little girl. You know, there's little girls with glasses. They're so cute, right? And the one conversation, I remember I came over and she goes, oh, I finally got Dory's glasses. And I came over here probably a day or two later and she said, Dory already lost her glasses in the creek. And we laughed. I laughed and laughed. She didn't think it was funny.
My name's Kyla Billy. I'm 30 from Skinner Creek. Dorianne was my sister. We grew up together pretty close, always joking around with each other and everything. It was difficult being apart from her, but every time we came home we'd message each other, say that it was going to be here, or when she'd come down we'd go for drives. But I also liked to bug her a lot too. She came by when I lived in Kamloops, and so I was showing her my school project for horticulture, and there was this big bug, and I was telling her to look at the butterfly, and then I didn't show her the big bug I had. Then I pulled it out in front of her, and she jumped back. Just big scream. And that's when she really spent quite a bit of time with Samaya too. She gave her a nickname, Smila. That's what my mom, Loretta, calls her. There was this one time when we were babysitting and she was cold. She was wearing a big sweater like this, a little bit bigger, but she had her like that, and then she put her arms in, and it was windy, and she moved her foot or something and she fell over, but she couldn't get up, and I just standing there laughing because it was really slow. She fell forward on her face and then she fell sideways and I couldn't help her up at the time because I was just laughing. Same thing, I'm just sad she won't be able to get to see all the kids to grow up too. I hear them talk about her a lot. I don't know what else to say. It hurts that she's gone. It's hard to see her with those things breathing for her.
I was told she's gone. Her ancestors came and took her to the other side. So now I can come here and just sit here, and they said it's just a place to talk to her, and that's all it is for me. Because I come here quite a bit and sit on the block and just tell her I miss her so much. I think to me sometimes, who really knows where to turn? I was never ashamed of what the outcome of her life was. You know, it was always love. I loved her. It didn't matter. I will love you if you're not a drug addict. That's not unconditional love. I will love you if you didn't do alcohol. That's not unconditional love. I loved her no matter what. It was just her loving herself enough to get the help she needed. There's nothing I could do to help her love herself enough. Always tell her I wished she was here, but that's all I could do is wish.